The iPhone 16e is here. It's the cheapest new iPhone you can buy with Apple Intelligence. But how does it compare to the iPhone 16 and which should you buy? Well, let's put these head to head with camera samples, SuperSaf style, and find out. Now let's start off with the build and the design. Both of these are quite familiar. We've got the flat sides with the curved corners, and they're also both very similar in size and weight. The iPhone 16e is just ever so slightly lighter, but if you close your eyes and you pick these up, if you didn't touch the camera modules, you'd probably think they're the same devices. Both are rated IP68 for water and dust resistance, and both have an aluminium frame made with up to 85% recycled aluminium. The iPhone 16e just comes in two color options, either this black or white. The iPhone 16 comes with many more color options. We've got a black, white, a pink, a teal, as well as this very vibrant ultramarine. Now, generally speaking, I think most people will be using their devices with a case, so I'm not sure how much that's going to matter to you. Apple do have lots of different color options for cases on the iPhone 16e. And I think that's kind of Apple's point with these. You can get a black or a white and then just customize it to your heart's content with a case. Now, the back material, we've got what Apple called the toughest glass on any smartphone. This is something that I've not tested. But at the front, we have ceramic shield. For the iPhone 16e, we have the first generation of ceramic shield. The iPhone 16 comes with the second generation of ceramic shield. Now, this essentially means that the display of the iPhone 16 is going to be more durable compared to the iPhone 16e. And then the differences don't stop there. Now, although we have 6.1-inch OLED displays for both devices, both with a 460 ppi pixel density and a 2 million to 1 contrast ratio, the iPhone 16 has smaller bezels with a dynamic island. It's also brighter at 1600 nits for HDR and up to 2000 nits for outdoor brightness. The brightness also goes down just to 1 nit on the iPhone 16, which is going to make it easier on the eyes if you use it in the dark. Now, both have a 60 Hz refresh rate. We don't have high refresh rates on either of these devices. You're going to have to get the Pro models for those. And we do have Face ID on both devices. In my experience, it works the same. Now, although the iPhone 16e does not have a bad display, to me, it does feel quite outdated with those bezels and that notch. This is pretty much exactly the same display as what we had on the iPhone 13 as well as the iPhone 14. If you did put them side by side, it's really difficult to tell them apart. The iPhone 16, on the other hand, feels a lot more modern with that dynamic island. That dynamic island also has functions and animations. So if you have a stopwatch on or some music playing, for example, that's going to be displayed on the dynamic island, and you're also going to be able to tap it to action. Now, a lot of these points that I mentioned may not mean anything to you, in which case the iPhone 16e display will be absolutely fine, but you just get these advantages on the iPhone 16. Now let's move on to the cameras. But before we do, if you're enjoying this video so far and you want to see more like it, do consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon. So for the selfie cameras, we've got 12 megapixel selfie cameras on both devices. And although the hardware seems similar and the results also seem similar, I did find that the iPhone 16 had slightly sharper results. But the main differences are with the rear-facing cameras. So you may already know that on the iPhone 16e, we have a single rear-facing camera. On the iPhone 16, we have dual rear-facing cameras. So let's concentrate on the primary cameras initially. Both have 48 megapixel fusion cameras, but we do have a newer and larger sensor size on the iPhone 16. Now, in good lighting, honestly, it's difficult to tell them apart, even if we're using the 2x zoom, which is lossless zoom. I wouldn't call it optical zoom, but they do use the middle part of the sensors to give you good quality zoom. I'd say the only area where I really notice a difference is when it comes to extreme low light. The iPhone 16 does give you better overall results compared to the iPhone 16e. But the iPhone 16 has that secondary ultra-wide camera, and this is so useful, especially in situations like this where I was on this staircase and I couldn't get back any further. Look at what I can get on the iPhone 16 versus the iPhone 16e. And also in this example, being able to get the full building into the picture with the iPhone 16, which wasn't possible from where I was on the iPhone 16e. The ultra-wide camera also allows for macro photography, so you can get up close and get some really detailed shots on the iPhone 16. This is something that you're not going to be able to do on the iPhone 16e. And the differences don't stop there. The iPhone 16 has more advanced features such as depth control. So you can take regular images and then turn them into portraits later. It also does way better with portraits. On the iPhone 16e, it can only take portraits of people, but it literally says no person detected, and it makes you move very, very close. This is something that we had on previous older iPhones, and it's the same that we have here on the iPhone 16e. You have to get uncomfortably close for portrait mode to activate on the iPhone 16e. And in my opinion, these portraits are not very flattering. Even if you use the 2x for portraits, you still have to get very, very close. On the iPhone 16, you don't have this issue. You can just take images as normal, even if they're pretty wide, and then turn them into portraits later if you wish to. Now on the iPhone 16e, although you do have photographic styles, this is where you can dial in a particular look for your pictures. You can only do this before you take images. On the iPhone 16, you have the latest generation of photographic styles, and this allows you a lot more flexibility. You can just take pictures as normal, and then you can go in and apply these photographic styles at a later point. And this is something that I find very useful. On past iPhones, I actually didn't use photographic styles because I didn't want a particular style baked in. On the iPhone 16e, unfortunately, this is the only option that you have. The iPhone 16, thanks to its dual cameras, can also take spatial photos and videos. This will be relevant to you if you have a Vision Pro, or you might be thinking of getting one down the line. You'll be able to have those spatial videos and photos, something that you don't have on the iPhone 16e. So that's for photos. What about for videos? Good news is the iPhone 16e takes excellent quality video. It can also record up to 4K 60 frames a second with Dolby Vision HDR, and the results are very good overall. Now, the iPhone 16, I would say, is similar in good lighting, but when it comes to extreme low light, you can clearly see that the iPhone 16 is performing better. That's partly thanks to that larger sensor, as well as the sensor shift optical image stabilization that you have on the iPhone 16. You only have optical image stabilization on the iPhone 16e. And the iPhone 16 also has action mode. So when you have extreme motion, then this is where you'll really be able to get some more stable footage on the iPhone 16 versus the iPhone 16e. Finally, the iPhone 16 also has cinematic mode. So this is where it's going to give you that shallow depth of field look. This really looks impressive in this video. As you can see, on the iPhone 16e, this option is not there. So when it comes to cameras overall, the iPhone 16e has a good selfie and rear-facing camera, but the iPhone 16 has better cameras overall, and in particular that ultra-wide camera, which makes a huge difference in my opinion. But one area where things are very similar is when it comes to performance. Both devices have the Apple A18 chip, and this is a super fast chip. Everything is super smooth on both devices, and you can play AAA games on both the iPhone 16e as well as the iPhone 16. Now, the iPhone 16 does have an additional GPU core. How much of a difference is that going to be in your day-to-day? Not much at all, but the iPhone 16 is just going to have a slight edge when it comes to gaming. And with that A18 chip, you get Apple Intelligence. Now, Apple Intelligence is still in beta and it's still being rolled out. Different regions have different versions, and Apple Intelligence, as far as I can see, is exactly the same on both devices. So, for those of you who don't know, Apple Intelligence brings lots of new features like writing tools, where you'll be able to proofread, summarize, and rewrite text. So pretty much anywhere you can have your cursor. There's cleanup in photos, so if you want to remove some distractions, you're going to be able to do that very quickly and easily. And then you've got Image Playground, which will let you make custom images and emojis with Genmoji too. Now, there are lots more features and many more coming soon, but they are both the same on the iPhone 16 as well as the iPhone 16e. Now let's talk about the physical buttons. So both of these devices have an action button above the volume buttons. This can be customized to use for silent mode, to recognize music, translate, and you can pretty much assign any shortcut to it. Now, one of the new things that we've got that's been introduced on the iPhone 16e is the ability to launch visual intelligence with the action button. So you can point your camera at whatever you want, and it's going to be able to find relevant information about what it's seeing. Now, on the iPhone 16, although you do have visual intelligence, it's not something that can be launched via the action button. However, this will be coming with a software update. But something additional that you have on the iPhone 16 is the camera control button. Sorry, Apple, I'm still going to call it button. Now, this lets you control things like your exposure, depth, zoom, switch between your different cameras, styles, as well as tone. Personally speaking, I only ever use this to launch the camera. I really don't use it for anything else. Some others may do, but that option is here on the iPhone 16. You don't have a camera control button on the iPhone 16e. Both devices have stereo speakers. There is one in the earpiece and one bottom firing. Now, I've had a listen to both of these side by side, and they both sound very, very good to me. I also think they've got the same loudness, although I'm not an audiophile, so take from that what you will. But what about some of the other features? Well, both of these devices do have USB Type-C, and both of them do support USB 2 speed, so up to 480 megabits per second. So if you are coming from an older iPhone, that's something that you're going to have to keep in mind. Thumbs up for USB Type-C. It's a lot more universal and it's going to work with lots more accessories. Both devices also have dual SIM capabilities. In the UK, we do have a physical SIM card slot on both devices, and then you can have eSIMs too. In the US, you will only have the option for eSIMs. Now, the iPhone 16 has ultra wideband technology and it also has Wi-Fi 7. The iPhone 16e does not have ultra wideband technology and it supports Wi-Fi 6. So that means that with a compatible router, you will be able to get much faster speeds on the iPhone 16 versus the iPhone 16e. But the iPhone 16e has Apple's new C1 modem, and it's the first Apple device with the C1 modem. It's the most power efficient modem on any iPhone. It's around 25% more efficient. However, it does not support millimeter wave. What does that mean? Well, if you live in an area that does have millimeter wave support for 5G, then you'll be able to get much faster speeds on the iPhone 16 versus the iPhone 16e. Now, that brings me on to the battery life and charging. So we do have a slightly larger battery on the iPhone 16e. I'm not sure of the specific size as yet. Apple doesn't disclose this at this point. But thanks to that larger battery, as well as the more efficient Apple C1 modem, you will be getting better battery life on the iPhone 16e compared to the iPhone 16. Now, in my experience, the iPhone 16 does have very good battery life, but you're just going to get slightly better battery life on the iPhone 16e, around 10 to 15% more. Now, both of these support fast charging via the USB Type-C port, so you can get around a 50% charge in 30 minutes with a 20-watt adapter, and both do support Qi wireless charging at up to 7.5 watts. So that's wireless charging. However, the iPhone 16 has support for MagSafe. The iPhone 16e does not. Now, I'm going to be honest, this was a bit of a surprise to me because iPhones have had MagSafe for quite some time. This includes the iPhone mini, but nevertheless, you will be able to use MagSafe accessories on the iPhone 16 if you have a MagSafe case, which has magnets within it, because there are no magnets within the iPhone 16e. I have tested this out and I've been able to charge the iPhone 16e with a MagSafe charger. However, the charging speeds you get will only be up to 7.5 watts. With the iPhone 16, if you have the new MagSafe charger with a 30-watt adapter or higher, you'll be able to get 25 watts of MagSafe wireless charging speeds. So over 3 times faster compared to the iPhone 16e. And finally, the price. So the iPhone 16e starts at around £600 or dollars. The iPhone 16 starts at £200 more, around £800 or $800. And all of the different storage variants will be about £200 or $200 more on the iPhone 16 compared to the iPhone 16e. So to answer the question, which one of these should you buy? Well, for that £200 more on the iPhone 16, you get a better, brighter display with the dynamic island. You get better cameras with the ultra-wide camera. You get advanced video features like action mode and cinematic mode. You've got the A18 with a 5-core GPU, which is going to give it a slight edge. You've got the camera control button. You've got MagSafe with faster charging and Wi-Fi 7. However, on the iPhone 16, you do have that new Apple C1 modem, which is going to give you better battery life. So the question for you, I guess, is how important are those additional features on the iPhone 16 compared to the iPhone 16e? For me personally, having the ultra-wide camera is a must, and also having that new updated display. And I would personally spend £200 more and go for the iPhone 16. However, if those features are not important to you, you want the cheapest new iPhone that you can buy, then I do think that the iPhone 16 is a good option. Personally, I would have liked if the price was slightly lower, maybe around 500 to 550. And that would have made it a much easier device to recommend. You can still buy the iPhone 13 and iPhone 14 pretty easily. Those will also come with the ultra wide camera, but they're not going to come with the latest A18 chip and Apple Intelligence, which means they're not going to last you as long as the iPhone 16e will. That's what I think anyway. What do you guys think? Drop me a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Are you going to be picking up the iPhone 16e? Maybe those additional features on the iPhone 16 are not very important to you, and that's absolutely fine. I think this is going to be a very popular device for a lot of people. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then do smash that like button for me. I have covered the iPhone 16e in a review here if you want to see more details of it. Or maybe you're interested in the iPhone 16 Pro. Well, I've covered that quite extensively, and you can see a video of it here. If you want to see more videos like this, then do consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf TV. I'll see you next time.